With you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to the Lord.
Jesus began to approach the towns where most of his mighty deeds had been done since they had not repented. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the mighty deeds done in your midst had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would long ago have repented in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And as for you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? You will go down to the netherworld. For if the mighty deeds done in your midst had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I tell you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So today we hear about both Moses' birth and then also his coming into adulthood. Tradition says that Moses was about 40 years old when this incident happened with the Egyptian who he murdered, who he killed, this man who was wickedly treating one of the Hebrews. So Moses killed him and then buried him in the sand. And of course, people started to find out about it, including the Pharaoh. And so the Pharaoh sought to put him to death, and Moses had to flee to the land of Midian. Bible trivia question: how long was Moses in the land of Midian before he returned to Egypt? 40 years. He spent 40 years in the land of Midian before God appeared to him in the burning bush, calling him to go back to Egypt. So he was already a very old man when it was time to go back to Egypt. But this is one of the many times in Scripture where we see that before somebody is ready to carry out their mission, there has to be a time of preparation. Moses already very much had a desire to be a liberator of the Hebrews. He already had a passion for justice, right? Which is why he came to the defense of his fellow Hebrew. But he did not yet have the prudence and discernment and understanding to be able to carry out his successful mission. He had to go into exile for a number of years. Just as Jacob, before Jacob could receive the inheritance of his father, he first had to be tested for 20 years, living with his uncle Laban and earning the right to marry Rachel and Leah. David had to spend years in the fields shepherding his flock in order to be prepared to fight against Goliath. John the Baptist had to spend many years in the wilderness, preparing for the time. Even Christ himself, even though he did not need any time to prepare, he set an example by spending the first 30 years of his life in secret, for the most part. All of us, in order to carry out the mission that God has for us, it takes time of preparation. Time to learn how to listen and discern and wait for the Lord to call us forward, as he did with Moses in the burning bush. So for some of us, that can take place over the course of years in little mini exiles, right, that we go through in our lives, different times of trial or struggle. Oftentimes those are times where God is preparing us for the next stage, for the next mission he has for us. But also this is how we should look at prayer. This is indeed how all the church fathers, right? This is how they all understood prayer. This whole idea about the exodus of the Israelites being liberated and going into the desert. They had to spend 40 years in time of preparation, learning how to depend on God. And all the early church fathers, they saw that as a prefiguration of what all of us do in prayer every day. Our time in prayer is our time of preparation and training and discernment. There's a group of missionaries in the United States. You might know some of them. They're called Focus Missionaries. And one of the things that Focus Missionaries are encouraged to do is one day a week, they don't take a day off. They call it a desert day. A day where they unplug. They turn their phones off. They turn off technology. And they spend a desert day. A day of prayer and reflection. And every single day they have their holy hour. Their hour in the desert. Learning how to listen. All of us, like Moses and David and Jacob and the people of Israel, all of us need that time of preparation and discernment. That time of silence before God every day. Do we take that? Or do we fill up even our times of prayer, do we allow them to be filled up with other things? Like reading a book, or certain devotions that we've become accustomed to praying. And lo and behold, when our prayer time is over, we haven't even taken any time of silence to listen and let God speak. All of us need time in the desert.